we wouldn't have a quorum unless we've got somebody.
What is,
Okay,
anybody know what
but
this
you know,
is?
life happens.
Yes, it's Otter AI. It's recorded.
Oh,
just
gotcha. Perfect.
Now it's
Touched it.
All right.
I would like to bring this work session to order. And, could we have roll call, please?
Well, getting to it.
No, we don't. We have a quorum.
But it's a
He was
work
on
session.
his-
Do we need a quorum for a work session?
Well,
He was on his porch, so I humped at him.
oh, you did? And John, he,
Zoom in.
was he?
Well, I don't know. He,
He wrote me about tomorrow, just before the meeting, that he was gonna be a little bit late for the work session. Do we,
What we can do, roll call if you want.
oh, hang on. We'll just do one check because,
any four of us.
yeah, I don't think we can make a motion for a work session, but we have to be able to make a motion. Because don't we have a deadline?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, wait a minute.
Get rid of the phone.
But if we
He
didn't
just, I got
notice it.
the right to voicemail, so.
Oh. Well, if we didn't notice it, that we were gonna be making a decision, I don't think we can. It's just listed as a work session.
It's ballot language.
Right, but we didn't say that we would be making any decisions,
We can make suggestions and bring it up tomorrow.
I guess.
We can't bring it up tomorrow.
It's not on the agenda.
Yeah, it's on the agenda.
What was the deadline for Sam?
I think, I don't
She
know.
has.
Is there more of us have ballot language done, or set another work session before the sixth?
For the sixth.
Before the sixth?
Hey, do we need a quorum for a work session, Sam? We don't need a quorum for a work session. Because there's no formal business. Hang on, can you just say that? Hang on. Okay. Okay, go for it.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Work session, you do not need a quorum because you guys aren't doing any formal business. Formal business is only, or the quorum's only needed when you guys are making decisions.
What about instructing staff on ballot language?
Well, in this case, it's one of those things that is Clay here?
No.
Okay, but we need at least an idea of what you guys are gonna do so we can make ballot language. But I don't think it needs to be a formal action for that, because that's just what the work session is over. I know you guys have a bunch of different ideas you might have for this.
But when the ballot language is final, it needs to go on a meeting for approval, right?
Yeah, we can do that on the we can do it on the fourth meeting if we need to.
The joint,
It by the sixth.
By the joint meeting.
by joint.
Okay, thank you, Sam.
You're welcome.
All right, goodbye.
Okay,
You will, in this case, you will not be directing staff, I will be directing staff.
right. So.
Roll call.
Oh, yeah, roll call, thank you. Yes, please,
Mayor Smith,
here.
Mayor Pro Tem Valentine. Trustee Hunter.
Here.
Trustee Check. Here. Trustee Schwartz.
Here.
And Trustee Still.
Hey, thank you. All right. So Administrator Nguyen, you want to give us a little background again?
Can you send me a link so I can share my screen? The clerks, our clerk let us know that we have to have some ballot language ready before September 6th to get to the county, so we can enter into an IDA for a special election concerning ballot language. And so this would be, this is something that needs to go, would have to go before our voters as a referendum for them to decide whether or not to keep the sidewalk fee, to amend the sidewalk fee. And so that's where we're at today. We need to figure out some ballot language. Once I get my screen up and running, you'll see what was on the ballot in 2013 for you to take a look at. The one thing that I would suggest is, well, let me share that first.
And if anybody has their packet, it's on page 4 of the agenda packet.
Yeah, I got it. I'm just launching it now. Been admitted. Got it. Okay. Okay, so this is, let's see. This was the ballot language from 2013. It said, shall the town of Paonia create a dedicated fund for the construction and maintenance of existing sidewalks of the town limits to be paid via utility billing at a rate of $3 per month per account, starting January 1st, 2014, and remaining in effect until December 31st, 2024. Yes, for, or no, against. If we have collected to date in the bank, I guess as of December 31st, 2023, get up here for you. We did get a finalized draft of our audit, and that's what I'm pulling this from. I've got to work this week on our management discussion analysis. Okay, so unrestricted, that's what we want to see. Unrestricted cash on our non-major governmental funds. It's that very first top line, third over from the left, says 90,708. And that's how much we currently have. So within, in that December, as of December 31st, 2023. Yes, we've collected about I did the math earlier. It's about 840 times 3 times 8. We've collected about $20,160 this year alone. I can actually pull that up and take a actual look here.
You said on August 13th, we had about an estimated 111,000 available. So
that's pretty close. Yep.
Can you tell how much we've collected since the beginning?
Right. That's what this shows.
No, since 2014.
Oh, the show,
Yeah.
because it would be, I would have to go in and look at every audit to see what came in and what went out.
Okay.
Because we did do work using the sidewalk fund for different work. I think it's important to know our code is, of course, this still wants to update. I can't pull it up right now, it wants to update. So, but I think it's important to also see what our code has to say about it. So there's hereby, that's all it says, right? So
Can you read that?
yes, let me maybe zoom in a little bit more for you guys. There is hereby created a special fund to be known as the Sidewalk Replacement Fund, and the funds therein shall be used only for the purposes allowed by law. It was relatively broad, but because the ballot language said it's for repairing and replacing, it doesn't say anything about new sidewalks. And so that's kind of where we're at today is, well, we could go and do a bunch of sidewalk replacements. But we've got other projects that are kind of taking priority that are sidewalks and to create safe routes for kids to get through.
Uncompliant PDA.
So I ask a question.
So what is due to be in, what is due to be in by the 6th? Is it just this language, and then do we have further opportunity to put more information in the blue book or whatever it comes out with it? Or like arguments for and against, like offering further clarification? We can do that after September 6th?
I don't know the answer. I know that whatever needs to be on the ballot itself
Definitely.
has to be there, because they've got to format ballots, print them, and do those kind of, and then get them mailed out.
Seems like Sam mentioned, then we'll have to do a pro con. But I don't think it was by the ballot language state. For some reason, that's a foggy memory, but I don't think we have to have that done by the 6th.
This
I
is
think
not my
it's-
daily wake up with elections, so I don't know.
I think it's gonna be really important to explain somewhere, somehow, what we have done to date.
Right.
Because I think that's gonna be the biggest thing that citizens are gonna say is like, you know, we've been paying money, we don't see the difference, tell me what you've done with my money.
And do we know what was done before 2020? And that was almost $44,000 spent in 2020, based on the, your staff report. So that's a little more than 1 year plus of money coming in, but unless they went in to audits since 2014 and talked about it, I don't know that we know, do we?
I haven't reviewed those audits going all the way back to 2014. I've reviewed going back to 2020, 2019.
Because that's what this came out of.
Yeah, but our unrestricted cash balance as of 12/31/2023 is what we had in the bank.
Yeah.
Specifically for sidewalks.
It's about a third of the total amount. Because if I was thinking, okay, if we brought in about 30,000 a year times 10 years, 300,000, so it's about 1/3.
So that, yeah, that just occurred to me, looking at the ballot language. It's like, what got done in the 6 years before 2020? And I know, I came to a meeting as a citizen. I bet it was 2019, asking about that, and they said they're doing, they don't do it every year because of the economy of scale. But I have no idea what got done in 14 through 19. And we may not know, depending on, no.
I think as much as can be done to quantify that and put it, if not in the ballot language, then in the pros, in the pro con statement, I think that would be important. Another question, so if we do the 50-50 split program, does that need to be addressed anywhere with the ballot language and the pro con, or that's completely separate?
I think that would be a separate ordinance that you would establish, but you wouldn't want to write your ballot language to be so restrictive that it can only be for 100% town-funded projects. So if you were to say something like, it does say for construction and maintenance
But it says of existing.
of existing, yeah, that's for,
But that wouldn't preclude a 50-50, would it?
it should, no, so.
We just want to be careful moving forward that we don't, yeah.
And one of the other things we've got to look at is, I don't know if it did make it in the packet, was SGM's rating of street or sidewalks.
Last page.
Yeah, and so, I think this is pretty important to show as well that we've got a number of areas without sidewalks that ought to have them. And then clearly the areas in red are really bad. What we've also looked at for maintenance of sidewalks recently is somebody's, a contractor, yes, is trying to sell some product, but they want to come in and review our sidewalks on what can be done to grind down sidewalks that might be heaving in some areas, to make them a little more level. They've done work in other towns in the state. A lot of them are resort type towns, but they try to keep a nice even surface without removing sidewalk and pouring concrete, but by grinding things down.
That's gonna be kind of tough because of the parkway, a lot of trees that have made the sidewalks heat. And as a matter of fact, there's some areas where the sidewalk's gone. It's just gravel and roots.
Yeah. One of the other things that we've got to be cognizant of is a lot of these sidewalks are also tied into curb and gutter. And it's unknown if they've done them right, they're probably pinned. I don't know if they're gonna be pinned in or not. But that means that they put dowel rods or steel in between the curb and the sidewalk. I don't know if that's the case, but typically when most of our streets will probably require a full depth reconstruction because they've been overlaid way too many times. And once we start talking about full depth reconstruction, you also have to look at what's on the sides of the street, that's curb and gutter and sidewalk. Grand is a prime example, second, third, our main thoroughfares through town.
So does it make a difference where we have the 4 foot of grass sidewalks that aren't attached to the curb and gutter? Is it safe to say that those sidewalks wouldn't be impacted by the road construction?
Not necessarily.
Because the road could come up higher?
No, it would be lower.
Lower.
Think of right now, if you look at third and you stand in the gutter and look, there's probably about 4, maybe 3 to 4 inches of asphalt above the top of the gutter. That's just a lot, that's a lot of mill or overlay. No milling, just a lot of overlay.
So if that all comes off, then your gutter may be a hanging gutter.
It may be higher than the roadway, which doesn't do any good.
So then you have to lower the gutter.
Yeah.
But would that affect the sidewalk that's this far from the street?
It may. So if you start pulling away curb around trees, I don't know what you're gonna get into.
Is this what, if the Safe Streets for All, will that look into this?
It'll help to prioritize all of, so the plan, what we got from Federal Highway for Safe Streets for All is a planning grant, which would be prioritizing which sections of street and roadway, including sidewalks, that to do first. So which ones do we need to go after first, designing, and then we can apply for grants afterwards. So.
I have a question. 30,000 isn't much money. Could our budget support that by pulling it from our general fund? And the reason I ask that is I feel like it's going to be a long shot for us to get this approved based on people's perceptions of sidewalks. But I do think we have a lot of good social capital with trees. And if I was going to do something, a fund, I might do a fund for trees and give us a year to have it plant the tree or put that in place. And so we have a really good matching program for maintaining and planting trees to take some of the burden off of staff. I just think that 30,000 a year is like a drop in the bucket for us. And I think it's going to be not a drop in a bucket, it's significant, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not that much money. And could we find that money from our general fund and then maybe next year go after something to help support trees and have that be beneficial to everyone?
So were you thinking of a ballot language for this next election for trees or just no ballot?
I'd like to say this year, but I think the reality is we'd want to really involve the tree board. So I'd say no for this year and really put together a good plan for next year. I think with all of the rate increases, which we have to have, we know this. I think our citizens are going to be really hesitant to say,
Yes.
even though it's only $36 a year, I don't know, I keep coming like, I don't know, it seems like a long shot for us to get this passed, and should we skip this?
Those were kind of my thoughts when we agreed to have the discussion to get it on the ballot. And kind of where I ended up with that, with my mental gymnastics, was we can ask.
I think that the trouble is when this one was passed in 2013, the cost and the price of doing this sort of work more than doubled. I kind of wish Rick was here to keep us informed about the cost of concrete because he kind of has that in mind, having been in construction. So I don't think we could ask for less than doubling what the last one was, and that would be a strong ask. Because I've heard a lot of people in town too that are upset just at the $3 utility bill. And it's like, well, I would hope that there'd be enough people that understand that it is like a school tax. It is for the community. It's not necessarily for in front of your house, it's for the whole community. But I think only about a third of, just guessing, a third of the population would go for it.
Do you go?
Yeah, so, I guess if it were to go on a ballot and fail, can it go on a ballot the next year, or is there a cooling off there?
Seems like Sam said it would have to be a special election the next year,
Oh, I
because it's
see.
an off year.
I see.
And I think it costs more
To do to
Remember
run a
that?
special election.
to do a special election. Not that that's necessarily a deterrent, but it would have to be a special election.
Right, so, I mean, the ballot language could be as simple as, should the town of Peoria continue with a sidewalk fee for the purposes of maintaining, repairing, and constructing sidewalks in town? It could be that simple, and if it fails, it fails. I wanted to ask, because I want to address your question if I can, Mayor.
Yeah.
Well, and this is a work session.
Yeah,
I can
just
do
go,
whatever I want.
everybody go.
So this is the draft of the fiscal year 23 audit. You see street fund. That's that.
Because I can't
Oh,
see
there's a
it.
big
How do you
bar
see
over it. Gosh darn it. There we go. Hang on. There we go. Okay, so you can see the street fund. That isn't all just like marijuana tax. That's also highway user tax fund from the state. A majority of that is from the state. So it's sales tax, not just the marijuana $5 occupational tax. But I'm showing you this to show that we have an unrestricted, that means cash on hand for street capital improvement of $938,482 at the end of 23. We're gonna need this for our 5th and Grand realignment project. And so, I've been seeing questions, I've had questions come in that I have to reply to about where's this marijuana tax going to? Are we spending it? Well, there it is. The majority of that is highway user tax fund, but it's also our marijuana tax, the occupational tax. And I wanted to read from the disposition of funds. This is our section specifically for marijuana tax code, section 4590. So from the initial levy of the occupational taxes provided by this Article 5 through December 31st of 2025, all the revenues derived from the excise tax and the provision of retail medical marijuana imposed by this article shall be placed in the town's street capital improvement funds, that's that fund right there, to be used for the following purposes: infrastructure repair and improvements, including but not limited to town streets, sidewalks, curb, gutter, drainage, landscaping, lighting, and streetscape amenities. Thereafter, beginning January 1st, 2026, all the revenues derived from the excise tax, the provision of retail medical marijuana imposed by this article shall be placed in the town's general fund. So we've been collecting this specifically for street projects, marijuana tax, highway user tax fund, and rather than go and do little side projects everywhere, we're going to do something that's going to be generationally impactful for our town by creating a safe space for kids at NIFSIS, for kids at PKA, to easily access a school safely and to access the Town River Park. So I think that's really important. If you see that out there, please say, hey, look, this is what we're doing with the money. We're not, it's going towards that. But I think it's important that we can actually use this funds for sidewalks because that's an important piece of this 5th and Grand realignment project. So that kind of answers some of your question where, do we have some funds that can also go towards sidewalks? We do. It's all part of the street fund. And then, I'm sorry, that also showed an additional amount for sidewalk fund, right? So.
And what is that? That's the 90?
That's the 90,708. That 2636 is, it is taxes receivable, meaning, that's from delinquent accounts not paying it. And so some of those could have been liens that are, that have already been satisfied this year, or people catching up with their bill. I mean, we have gotten away from carrying, 60 to 75,000 in accounts receivable over 3 to 4 months, people being behind on the bill. We've narrowed that down to closer to 20,000.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And that was, so if you hear people complaining that we've been really, like, we're gonna shut your water off for not paying, yes. Like, that's what our code says, we're actually enforcing it. And part of that is that sidewalk fee.
Sam responded that you don't need the protocol language till the 21st.
Oh, 21st. Thank you.
Of September?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Thanks.
okay, so assuming that next year we go into construction and we finish-ish, fifth and grand, then how much, like, and if we're gonna just call it wipe out these funds because we have to have a big match, how much should we anticipate through, and this granted is through 2025, the marijuana tax, but like, how much is that money again through, that currently goes to the street fund on an annual basis that we could then put towards sidewalks and landscaping?
Let's see.
Budgeted 140,000.
Yeah, that could have,
And we have carryover from that too, don't we, from previous years? Did that get spent?
it depends. Sometimes it did, other times it did. So this is a highway fund. We received in 23, $71,542.12. And that was the end of 23. And then we spent it because we can use highway tax fund for our street department or our street division within Public Works towards salaries and snow removal, things like that. And that's all broken down on these itemization, traffic control operations, snow and ice removal. But we receive a significant portion through sales tax. I wish Cassell wasn't updating because I could show you what we've received in this year for the $5 occupational marijuana tax to see that as well.
I pulled up your report for July 31st. 56,000 is what's come in, and it was budgeted to go to 132,000, so 42% as of July 31st.
There you go.
So a little less than half. So, and then, but hasn't that out? Did that money get spent previous years for sidewalk and stuff?
If I pull up previous audits, I could tell you. I can't tell you right off the top of my head.
So there could be some money accumulated in that fund from previous years. Because is this the third year, that $5? No.
But wouldn't that be in that 900 and something?
It would be. It's included in that.
Yeah, so.
In that unrestricted cash balance, because that's where it goes, to the
So
street
some
fund.
of that is, and let me ask you another question. The 1% sales tax to capital improvements are not sidewalks. Or are they?
Yeah,
So that 1%, okay,
that's a capital improvement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and we get, I don't remember how much the 1% is that comes in. It's really a matter of allotting what's. And I know Sam's not listening, but it seems to me in order to do this ballot next year, it was gonna cost $1,600. Does anybody have that in their head?
I had 2,000.
2,000, so we would essentially be possibly spending 2,000 for nothing. But if it doesn't pass.
I still think this is gonna be hard to ask.
Because we know we haven't already raised sewer rates.
Oh, that's on our agenda. Well,
Right, as we know that.
So here's my 2 cents worth. Rather than a cooling off period and paying extra to do it next year, we could put it on the ballot and just ask.
Yeah.
And it may very well get denied, and then we have a cooling off period because it would require a special election next year.
Or 25.
So, right, so if we are gonna do this, to me, the sticking points, or not so much sticking points, a necessary point would be to modify the language to include new sidewalks. I mean, to me, that's the biggest language modification. and then deciding on the dollar amount, do we keep it the same or raise it? While I understand that we need the money, I think adding anything to it is just gonna decrease the chances of it passing. So to me, it would be, putting it on the ballot, including the language for new sidewalks, keeping it at $3, and then the remaining question is why the sunset it. That's where I'm at.
Compromise, but it's probably the best chance of getting it passed, I suppose, even though it really does need to be doubled about.
Right, I just
But that,
see us getting laughed at.
right.
Mhm. So in the lieu of that, so if it fails,
This is out of my bailiwick, so I don't know.
I mean, if it fails and we really don't have a big budget for sidewalks, because even if we use the whole 132,000, that would get us, it costs 43,000 to do what they did in 20.
Yeah.
So we could get that much. So do I dare say my back of the napkin?
I think you should, because so the mayor actually did some quick calculations based on the red of that map for,
So I just got out my
it's
little.
kind of eye-opening, so.
So, I was 5 foot, I did the linear of each red and yellow, just very rough. And then when a 5 foot sidewalk, because that's what's in front of our house, is 5 feet, which is standard. So for the poor, it would be 35,250 square feet. For the moderate, it would be 67,500 square feet, for a total of 102,750 square feet. Yet, and I assume $10 a square foot, it'd be $1.275 million to upgrade all of that. And at 30,000 a pop, it'd take 34 years. And in the meantime, other stuff goes bad. So anyway, that was, I just had to see.
Actually, that might be something to put in the ballot language. If we left the rate the same, it's gonna be 30 years before we get to all of them.
And that's not even new. I didn't even go through the
That's
new.
just existing.
The existing problems will be 30 years.
And
before we get around to it.
And $10 is probably a little low, I think, according to Corey, and that doesn't include curb and gutter, and I mean, I sort of threw, it was just the back of the napkin yesterday going, wait a minute, what would this cost? But if we don't collect any money, what do we do?
I heard this, so, I mean, I think I heard, like, I felt like it was very clear, though. It's, we take okay, we get that the marijuana tax, it's committed to fifth and grant, right? Like the money that we have in right now, the 900 and some thousand. We're gonna need it, and I'm not saying we touch it next year, but soon this project will be done. Can we not say we're gonna then take those, whether it's the highway tax or the marijuana tax, and, I mean, that's real money there that we could then help to fund it. I mean, how much do you say a year? 90, no, 100 and some thousand, 100,000? That's 10 years.
132
Okay.
is what was budgeted.
So without asking voters to increase it, like, could we not do that?
Well, so, right now, it's meant to go towards street capital improvement.
Yeah. Which
When it
includes that.
sunsets in 25, so December 31st, 2025, starting January 1st,
Mhm.
it's meant to supplement revenues in the general fund.
And can't we use revenues from the general fund for capital improvements?
That's normally how I do. We've
Yeah.
set up we've set up funds that have really restricted things, and they have to go towards certain capital improvements, like the sales tax thing, where you take 1% and fund it. Like that's really hampering your general fund, when really the way to do it was say, we'll have this capital improvement plan that will be funded by the general fund, instead of specifically, targeting sales tax towards it. I think the state made you do that to go up that extra percent. I don't know.
It was on the ballot. I don't know the background
Sure.
together, because that had to be voted in to add that 1%.
Right.
I don't know the background.
I'm just, the reality is, losing this fund means that we're losing about $30,000 a year that is specifically for sidewalks. And so just to think that we're gonna sell more marijuana to cover that, or, I don't think that's gonna happen. And, where those fees go to right now, I mean, they they are literally going to things like all of our landscaping and some of the work that we are doing, and when we are doing street repairs, when we tear into like the sewer, or we have to do a sewer repair, it can go towards fixing, the roadway that's been torn up because of that sewer. That's the difference. So,
And are you referring to the 1%?
I know I'm referring to marijuana.
Oh.
Sorry, I was all over the place.
But we haven't really been doing that since we have it in that 900,000. Or have.
That's also, so don't think of it as just marijuana. That's a highway user tax fund that hasn't really been spent for years. And it's just been building up and building up and building up. And so it goes towards that whole picture.
And if I could just add, I know the public deliberately put into the marijuana that on landscaping, which they were thinking trees. But again, I don't know if anybody understands that it's all going to the general fund after the end of next year.
Which is very helpful when you're talking about trees, because then we can fund initiatives by the tree board, which we've done in our through our general fund.
So could we do both? Could you figure 50-50, 50 towards sidewalks, 50 towards trees? Of that, and I don't know, has this gone down from previous years? The estimate is 132,000.
Yeah, so there's a few things being conflated, right? There's the state implemented sales tax on the sale of marijuana that we get a pass through on, and then there's a $5 transaction fee.
And that's the fee, but I don't know if it's been going down now that Hotchkiss opened shops.
I haven't done an in-depth analysis on it. I think it would be safe to say.
We have to convince the public to smoke marijuana.
Yes, buy one gummy and pay us $5. That's what it is.
Would you explain to me again, when Leslie Klinsmeyer suggested this sidewalk fee be rolled into public works, and you thought that was a bad idea? And why was that a bad idea to just do away with the sidewalk?
So she was, I don't know if that's what what was it she had said? She had said something like,
dispense with the sidewalk fee and roll it into public works.
That was more of, I think, how you categorized funds. I thought that was what she was saying we should get rid of.
Yeah, I think that having this standalone fee kind of makes sense, because we know it's got to be earmarked for sidewalks. But trying to roll it into a general fund and then trying to pull it out through a sub fund from there, that's a lot of office work. Or if it's delineated, here it is, it's coming in, and this is how it's going to go out. Thank you. That just makes sense. And
Okay, I could support what you're saying, Lucy.
What would your thoughts be on when to sunset it in the ballot language? This one was 10 years.
Another 10.
That's kind of where I was at.
Yeah, 10 is a nice round number.
Mm-hmm. Comes fast, doesn't it?
It does. I did, as much as I want to say increase it, or it'd be like, increase it to 6, and then we have tree and sidewalk fund. I don't think we can get 6 passed just through sidewalk.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I agree. That's the case.
I think as nice as it would be to do tree things, we don't really know what that is yet. I mean, seems like that could be, I don't know. You won't have to do another ballot initiative for trees necessarily.
Like I think about, okay, so if I can just step back, or I know we're talking about sidewalks, trees are connected, but like we know how much like this town needs its trees for cooling, for shade, all of it, and how much it is to maintain, to prune, to replace, all of those things. And it's like that we know how expensive it is. It's like if you could have a matching fund up to $1,000 for homeowners to be reimbursed. I'm like, all of a sudden, if you could get 50,000, then you're protecting 50 trees at a minimum. And over 10 years, that's 500 trees that could be impacted. That to me is like significant. And I'm like, We can't do that on our own. Sidewalks, we can kind of do on our own. A little bit. Yes.
So I've seen this, I've seen how like a tree fund is established. The city of Jacksonville, Florida has probably one of the best tree fund programs in the nation. And it was established because of impact fees. So developer impact fees, as you develop a site, there's an impact fee specifically for trees, and it allowed them to build this humongous nursery of native species plants that they can pull from, and then also plant them in any community in Duval County. So if we, there's another path forward to help establish a tree fund, and it could be through impact fees, but that is typically around commercial industrial development, of which we don't have a lot of.
Right.
So that makes it difficult.
Some sort of matching, even a sidewalk matching, for people that wanted their sidewalks fixed. Because it's in most communities, I don't know, people are usually responsible for their own sidewalks. But we just know people just can't do it here.
And we had established one, or there was one established by the time I had gotten to Albion. There's a 50-50 sidewalk program. And if if that sidewalk in front of your house wasn't on the priority list for that year, you could pay 50% towards whatever the cost was and be bumped up the list to have it included in that year's sidewalk program. But that would be separate from
Yeah.
ballot language.
Yeah, that's a whole policy, which could be a policy. So I guess the thing is, we put it on there, staff time to put it on, we come up with the pros and cons, and we lose whatever, if it fails, we lose the price to get it on the ballot. Which I don't, would Sam text you if you texted and asked her how much that was? Oh my gosh, how come when I say silent, it doesn't work? Does
You have
anybody?
to use the
I
action.
found, see, I'm doing that, and it's not working.
Pull down from the top
Yeah,
and hit focus. And then do not disturb.
really? Because the ringer doesn't, yeah,
It'll just send everything elsewhere.
okay. When you
Oh,
get
you guys turn it
I
off.
just learned something too.
So I gotta get back to my. Let's go back to my home screen.
I've sent her a text.
Okay.
Well, so far, I like Lucy's idea of, let's put it on the ballot because it would be nice to have it. And even though I hope that half the community or more than half the community would understand that it's a good thing and necessary. So, and it include ADA improvements, new sidewalks, as well as maintenance, repair.
Do we need to include the ADA language in the ballot language?
Oh, that would be in, I think, the blue book of pros and cons that we need to make sidewalks, new sidewalks meet code.
She said the IGA was in this packet.
Oh, really?
I don't see it, so I'm wondering if it is it.
Biggest packet.
We talked about this last one.
Last meeting, 2 meetings. She had to report. 13th maybe?
I really appreciate that the public works have in their goals and objectives, the sidewalks.
Mhm.
And it does feel like we have the right team to make this happen.
That was, I included that last year while making this year's budget.
Oh, what we're seeing tomorrow night?
No, what trustee Schwartz was talking about for our capital improvement plan, I made sure it was included in this year's budget.
Yeah, because it was in the public works vision.
So I don't know, I think we should just try it. I think you're right, Lucy.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna say a caveat, I think we also need to have a matching fund for trees in town, and that lottery, we have to do something to help our homeowners with trees. I'm gonna push hard on it, and I'd even be willing to say we'd go up to 6 if there was also money for trees. But I think we should put it on the ballot. We just gotta do our damnedest to.
Just sidewalks or trees too?
Well,
I
sidewalks
so
is-
appreciate where you're coming from, but I just think it's better to leave this simple. And we need more work and more input. I mean, I'm so with you.
Yeah.
So with you on trees, but I just don't think that this is the place.
Well, it's gonna be a problem with some sidewalks because the trees are causing the damage. So it's tough to just replace the sidewalk without doing something about the trees, but I think you're right. We can't ask for more money.
Yeah, so again, to reiterate where I'm at, continuing the $3 fund, sunset in 10 years, and include language that would allow for new sidewalks. That's where.
Couldn't find email. It's not in the earlier one, sorry. That's the downside is we just spend money that, and then we have to do a concerted effort to convince people.
Except a lot of them are gonna say, we've been paying this for 10 years and I haven't seen much happen, although it has happened along Fourth and I just.
We definitely have more to address in the pro statement,
Mhm.
for sure. I think that's gonna be key and that people actually read it.
Mhm.
I mean, we did, the town did do, work in 2020 that showed Box Elder Avenue, which included 1,640 square foot of 4-foot sidewalk, or 4-inch sidewalk, 40 linear foot of curb and gutter, and 2 handicap ramps. That was just, a little over $18,000.
Looks nice.
Box Elder also had 1,370 square foot of 4-inch sidewalk, just under $12,500. 4th Street in Box Elder, again, 170 square foot of 4-inch sidewalk, $1,500. 4th Street in Renarga, 530 square foot of 4-inch sidewalk, just under $5,000. And then 3rd Street in Renarga, at 750 square foot of 4-inch sidewalk at about $6,800. I mean, the costs are significant when what is that? That's well over the $30,000 brought in that
It
year.
was 43. I added it up, 43,861,
So,
because I was curious about that.
Yeah, it's kind of sad when you have to tell people, well, at this rate, it's gonna be
34 years.
2 decades till we get to you.
Yeah. Then we'll start the process over again.
Well, and if, let's say it does go through, and then can we talk about a 50-50?
Absolutely. So
And then we
let's,
could use some of
even if it doesn't go through, we can still talk about a 50-50 sidewalk policy. That becomes codified, it becomes an ordinance, becomes code, that we can go off of every year. So,
And would that typically only be for replacement, not new?
so
Not necessarily.
that where I've done it before, it was for new and existing sidewalks.
Does it cost considerably more to put in new sidewalk?
I would think it's less demolition.
There's no demo, yeah, so
It's free.
it depends, right? It depends, because if we're talking putting something up, Rio Grande, heading up towards Apple Valley, that needs to be engineered. So that cost, even though there's no sidewalk, it'd be considerable. What is it, 20 to 30% of the cost? What's that?
Is the soils there
Are awful.
Is that why?
No, I was just saying, because engineering fee, is it typical 20 to 30% of the cost of construction, is that what it is?
I don't work on a civil scale. You said that before. I'm like, man, I need to charge more. I'm at like
Yeah.
1%.
There's, I don't know. But on flat areas, like around, I think it's Fourth, there were some, on Delta Avenue, let's just say Delta Avenue, the red, right here where my mouse is rotating, right there. I mean, that's relatively flat, right? So it could be, the issue that we'd have to run into are service lines, you know, where they're at, coming from the middle of the road to properties for water, sewers in the back, but typically, but water service lines, things we don't know about,
Hopefully
and
they're,
trees.
they're deeper than 6 inches. of
Yeah.
How deep we'd have to excavate for sidewalks. Don't know.
Well, let's.
We have found strange things in this
Yeah.
town, so.
So as far as us directing Stefan to develop ballot language based on what we've talked about and pros and cons? To direct staff?
Well, pros and cons is gonna be another special workshop.
Okay,
But I think as far as ballot language, I mean, it can be as simple as shall the town of Paonia keep a dedicated fund for the construction and maintenance of sidewalks, that's not existing, within town limits, to be paid the utility billing at a rate of $3 per month, per account starting January 1st, 2014, and remaining in effect, starting January 1st, 2025, and remaining in effect until December 31st, 2034. Yeah.
it seems like the pros and cons, though, as I was looking at the examples, it doesn't have to be that long. Like, I mean.
They don't have to be, but I think that's where we try to sell it.
Yeah, in a concise way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we haven't just been, going out to dinner with the sidewalk fund, like, we have done things, it costs a lot of money.
And I think we can also talk about how we're gonna use them, like the existing funds for fifth and grand realignment, like.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to let them just accumulate, so you can really have an impact.
Yeah, I think that will be the place for us to face.
And we can talk ADA stuff, all of that. So is it not something that staff could just draft and then we could workshop it for a starting point, or is that too much?
So,
She's not here.
well, because she has to do it by the 6th, so we
No,
have to
the
have the
20.
language.
Well,
That one
now-
has till the 21st.
Yeah,
But so will you provide language to put in the packet for the 4th meeting? Joint Commission Board?
The way I read it, are you okay with that? Okay.
Yeah.
So that is exactly how it'll be in there. Let me back up. It'll be as close to what I just said, as possible. And then as far as pro and con, we can have something by September 10th as a draft, because that's our next meeting before the 21st. Because our next meeting in September will be the 24th, it's past the deadline for the county. So we can have sample pro statements. I'm assuming you don't want to do any against statements. So we'll do statements for and have draft by the 10th.
You may have to do both.
I looked here, I didn't see.
We
what
didn't
they
have that in
did.
the last one, it's just there were no
Really?
statements to the contrary by the deadline, and that's what was included in the.
Is that because somebody else does the cons and if they don't submit it? Okay.
I believe so.
I mean, it's just, yeah, I should know.
So.
We probably have some citizens.
Who would be against it, right? And if we receive something, we'll put something around.
Well, it is kind of too bad that we couldn't raise it to cover costs a little better, but I think that would be tough to do.
Me too. Fortunately, because other rates are gonna have.
Right, and you're gonna see tomorrow a request for sewer project needs assessments, and you're absolutely right. Based on what we're looking at, sewer rates have to go up, which stinks all around. I'm gonna have to do the same kind of 20-year cash flow analysis for that P&A that I did with water.
So hang on one second. So we are gonna have a vacancy to deal with tomorrow, but I think the vacancy, the letters of interest are not coming in until later in September. You're gonna be gone. You're potentially gonna be gone. We won't have a quorum for the 10th meeting unless you can join by Zoom.
Probably.
Do you think you could? Okay, because it would be Rick
I'll be here.
and you
I'll be on the.
and John, but we wouldn't have a quorum. Because Walter knows he's gonna be gone that same day. Lucy already told me. So that's why, and I'm just looking, I think the letters of interest are scheduled to come in on the 27th.
Yeah, I will be gone October 5th through the 10th on the river, so I won't
Yeah,
have any
no Zoom need
signal,
for
but
you.
I could come early to a special meeting. But I would be
And
gone.
that's
5th through the
specifically
10th.
for a pro statement.
No, we're talking about filling the
Regular
trustee
meeting.
seat.
Oh,
She's just looking ahead, knowing that people are gonna be.
oh, we're
gone.
scheduling, I'm thinking,
Yeah.
that's-
Yeah, I'm thinking of scheduling on the 10th meeting,
It's the
of
8th,
course, I
right?
can't get to, oh, I don't know, I have to look at the calendar.
8th, yeah, the meeting's on the 8th,
Yeah, and you're gonna be gone,
the 5th through the 10th.
and you're probably gonna be gone too. So, yeah, we'll talk more. Anyway, it just occurred to me that, can't find the date was for letters of interest.
It's the
24th.
My daughter's out there with her friends.
Oh, see her making faces at you?
She was leaving.
Yeah, it's the letters of interest, then the 24th. So, yeah, if you could do Zoom, otherwise. Okay, just- okay, all righty. All right, we good to go? It's literally.
Fun times tomorrow.
I adjourn this meeting.
Thanks, team.
Yes, and I'm bringing pizza tomorrow. So you can have, there'll be dinner.